Our guest for today is Mr. Patrick Acupan ng People's Budget Coalition. He is also a member of the Right to Know Right Now Coalition and a convener of the FOI Youth Initiative. Welcome to Storycon, Patrick, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Patrick.
Good afternoon po, and thank you for having us on your program.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. Sir, well, of course, we don't, ideally, we wouldn't want to have to go through yung reenacted budget. That would not be ideal. Pero parang bigla natapos kagabi. And that's just a few hours after all this talk na parang ang daming apparently unsurmountable differences between the two versions. And the red flags that your group has been raising all this time. So, let me start off with that, sir. With what you know from the Bicam results so far, are there still red flags that you can see doon sa napagkasunduan nila kagabi?
Okay, sir. So first off, if there's a win that we have been celebrating with this Bicam series, is that first there has been a live streaming. So in fact, that there could be some more improvements to that. Well, there's always a start to that, and we're grateful that at least we are coming up from real observations of what's happening on the floor, despite some comments that there are instances that they would be going on mute, and they would be assembling on side caucuses without really knowing what's the topic being discussed. So that's something that we can really comment on at this point, but having a live stream at this point is already good. And the second thing that we want to celebrate is that at least we are not looking at the reenacted budget for this year. So we go to the red flags that we see. So even if there has been a civic rush in completing the Bicam process yesterday, there has been some instances that red flags are still there in the budget, and we would like to point out that these red flags are really based on a patronage-based way of delivering services, and most especially in terms of how we target beneficiaries for ayuda programs. So doon po nagpo-focus karamihan ng red flags na nakikita natin so far.
Sir, I suppose you're referring to MAIFIP, AIX, TUPAD, and all those wonderful wonderful funds that amount to billions that are left to our politicians to determine who the beneficiaries are. Pero kasi when we were talking to Ping Lacson earlier, sabi ni Ping na tanggalin yung letter of guarantee na yan, tanggalin yung patronage politics na yan. Okay lang magbigay ng benepisyo o ng tulong pinansyal sa taong bayan, pero wag idadaan sa politiko. I'm wondering lang, as you have seen so far, or if you're aware so far, kung ano yung final version na ipasa as far as MAIFIP, the AIX, TUPAD, at are they still vulnerable to patronage politics?
Well, definitely, sir, because what we are advocating for is there should be a rules-based way of determining who gets actually to benefit. Because one thing that we have observed from the live streaming is that when these Bicam panel members are defending the budget, they do make a case for why it's needed. And we do not disagree on that. Totoo namang kailangan ang ayuda para sa mga hirap at mga nangangailangan. Hindi po natin iyon dinidiscount. But the problem comes from the discretionary way that it is being spent or distributed. And at that point, palaki ang role ng ating mga politicians, because first, they have the budget and the systems allow it to be discretionary, meaning they can choose what districts or what areas get to be given a certain amount, and ultimately perhaps who gets what and for what amount. So that's the first level of red flag that we see if there's no prevailing rules-based way of targeting our beneficiaries. And of course, why not? It's to their benefit. So if they are seen participating in payouts and distributions, then of course, it's a natural response for the beneficiary to feel grateful at the very least. But that's what we are trying to avoid na po sana.
Ami?
Mr. Acupan, I'm just curious kung paano naging participation ng civil society. Alam namin kung ano ginawa ninyo sa House eh. But during the Bicam, how did you participate? Saka, pwede ba kayo magtaas ng para sa classroom. Pwede ba kami mag-comment? Meron bang ganun doon?
No, raise your hand.
Right.
No.
Sige po. So, pagdating naman sa BICAM, what we are really supporting is a principle of the idea of an open BICAM. But with an open BICAM, it would then really just equate to, dahil lang naka-live stream doesn't mean that the BICAM is open. So, by opening the BICAM and by observing all the days that the BICAM has been conducted in the past few days, yung mga side caucuses na hindi natin alam kung anong pinag-usapan, small committee meetings happening before those BICAM sessions, the documents still, for instance, what we see on the BICAM are budget comparisons of the House version. The Senate version is not even presented there. There's just a column that shows the approved 2026 BICAM figures opposite or against the HGAP version. So by opening the BICAM, it would also mean that you open the documents, you open the records, you open communication lines, and let the people know and let people in. And as we witnessed this in the budget, we see that it is possible not just for the budget, So we know that BICAM is necessary for all kinds of law. And the budget bicameral conference has proven to be a very good case that we can start on and build on.
Kasi ilang beses sinuspindi yung live stream ng BICAM eh. Nung hindi nakasuspinde and they were in a huddle, nakakarinig ba kayo? Nakaka-observe ba kayo? Yung civil society?
Actually, very limited, and that's already saying that our coalitions already have formed networks from trusted sources and people within the organizations, and even to some BICAM members whom we help shape the budget process. And we still have no much information about what's going on at the background. And one possibility is that it's just really a lot to process, a lot to take in, and the work is just big for everyone. And but our engagement overall in the monitoring the BICAM has been like everyone else. It's monitoring from the live stream. So we make sure that we divide the work. The way that we operate, at least in the People's Budget Coalition, we have organizations representing different causes and sectors. And we would be monitoring agency budgets that are relevant to our interests and to our stakeholders. So very limited to monitoring yung aming naging participation sa Open BICAM.
Patrick, let me just
So
see.
closed door siya, no? Closed door? Bali, closed door talaga siya actually. Nung sinuspindi live stream, nag-closed door session sila.
Patrick,
Okay.
let me see lang if I got this correctly. Tell me if kung tama intindi ko. So you're saying it's a good start. At least as far as transparency is concerned in the BICAM, it's a good start, pero hindi pa siya lubos kasi parang kung tama intindi ko sa'yo, may mga side caucuses na hindi mo alam na pag-uusapan. Merong mga small meetings before the session na sila nag-uusap. So you don't exactly know kung merong parang small committee meeting ongoing at the side and so on down the line. Because you're only limited right now dun sa kung ano lumalabas dun sa live stream.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So at this point, we don't really want to put forward any assumptions because we don't know if what they are saying behind closed doors and with muted microphones. But it opens a lot of possibilities and maybe skepticism for the untrusting public. We know why, and for very clear reasons that we have to monitor the budget all the more now na nangyayari to. And that's correct. We celebrate what's good. We take credit. We give them the credit for doing this, at least for this year na meron tayong live stream. Pero maiwasan pa po sana kasi I don't think that it's in the interest of the participating panel members. So by being in the panel, of course they stake their reputation. They go on record to make a case for their budgets. So they are willingly submitting to that accountability, and having a live stream could be a good evidence if we get to that point later on. Hopefully not. No, so yung mga side caucuses sana wala ng small committee meetings, etc. We must make it open, and that's in the interest of the Filipino people. Kasi we know how important trust is for a health institution to succeed.
Okay. Tapos, kung sa balikan ko lang yung earlier red flags that we were talking about, specifically yung ayuda type of funds that we were discussing that are distributed in a very discretionary way, at least in the past. Would you know already by this time kung nalagyan na nga ng safeguards itong mga paglabas ng pondong ito? Again, going back to MyFIP, AX, and Tupad. Kasi yun nga, when we were talking to Ping Lacson earlier, he was saying na dapat lagyan ng special provisions yan para hindi gawing gatasan ng mga politiko for patronage. I don't know kung ano yung final na nailabas ng Bicam dun sa mga pondong ito Would you know kung merong nailagay na safeguards to prevent patronage politics in the distribution of these funds? These are controversial funds, di ba? I mean, from the very start, you flagged them already.
Soft pork.
Soft pork, yeah.
Tawag nila.
Soft pork, that's correct po. So in terms of the safeguards, actually, if we have something to hold on to, it is those kinds of pronouncements pala, if I would be very candid about that. So we've been hearing that they would be institutionalizing regulations to make sure that it will not be prone to abuse. But until these are actually in place, we can't really say so much. If I would be able to give an example, although this is not in the form of ayuda, one discussion has been about establishing an oversight function or mechanism for civil society observers in the implementation of farm-to-market roads. So this manifestation was brought up by Senator Kiko Pangilinan in the agency budget for the Department of Agriculture. So there is stress that the civil society would be able to monitor through online dashboards how FMR projects are being executed and implemented, and they would be relying on specific geographic coordinates to be able to track actual project completion. Those are examples, but in terms of the policies in place, we still look that there should be an sort of institutionalizing rules-based approach so that abuses will be prevented.
Pero in-approve ba yun ng Bicam? Yung oversight na yon
Ng CSOs?
It's something that should come after po the budget. So if there is a provision within the budget, and as to the final implementing rules or what does it look like actually, or who can participate, or what are the frameworks exactly, I'm not sure if there has been a detailed conversation about that yet.
Kasi pati Malacanang sinasabi, the politicians will have no say in my FIP, ganun-ganun. Kaya hindi namin alam kung ano yung safeguards na nilagay dyan. Para ma-actualize nga yung sinasabi niya ng Malacanang na no politics.
Yeah.
Would you know, kayo? Dahil kayo dapat ang makakasasabihan nila, di ba, kung sakasakali?
We haven't really gone into, at least in meetings that I have attended, we have not gone into that sort of detail yet. But we'll, of course, see it through po that. And thank you for reminding us about that. And which stresses the point that safeguards are very important. But if, we have a clean budget that's, at least where we can prevent such abuses, then it would be good if safeguards would be irrelevant. After all, that's what we want. We don't really have to fear about how our taxes are being used. So it really depends on how the budget looks like. And with the current form of the budget, I feel like if safeguards, if we are to talk about safeguards, then it should be an urgent call for the legislators to bring up.
Yung unprogrammed appropriations, ano na pagkasunduan doon finally? Would you know kung ano yung what was agreed on in black and white, and if there were any special provisions put in dun sa unprogrammed appropriations?
Yeah, so with unprogrammed appropriations, in our monitoring, we tag this as a red flag, and we call this as a shadow pork. So we know for sure that since 2022, Congress has used the unprogrammed appropriations to fund items that are beyond what is proposed in the president's budget, and it's a concerning pattern. So with the Bicam, at the approved version, they have approved the House proposal that amounts to 243 billion pesos against the Senate version that amounts to 174.
Okay,
Pero ang inapprove ng Bicam, yung ano daw, yung House version.
yung House version.
At tinaasan pa daw ng konti. Pero may isa pa daw, kakaiba ngayon during the Bicam, pinayagan yung two agencies, executive, na mag-appeal na baguhin yung proposal nilang budget. What do you think of that? Unang-una si Vince Dizon, who didn't get what he wanted, at si Francis Chu Laurel, who got what he wanted, 33 billion yung kanyang Anong tingin nyo doon? Is that a red flag?
We've been monitoring that, and yung nature po nung parang submission, you've mentioned about Secretary Kiko Laurel submitting a letter. He was proposing the new list of parang projects under the FMR. And what we feel like is the purpose of the Bicam is just to consolidate and agree on the disagreeing figures of both versions. And our position on that is if that's the purpose of the Bicam, then there shouldn't be any other change, whether it would be about that list that the Secretary is forwarding, or the adjusted costing from the DPWH, given new assumptions on raw material cost. So it would just really complicate the process, and these are things that should have been discussed early on when they were given the time to defend their budgets in the Senate and the House. So we feel like it would really just allow further that would allow it to happen in further occasions in other budget cycles, even if there has been a strong statements from Senator Noren Legarda that it shouldn't be the practice. But if they allow it at this point, then I would have appreciated that they stood their ground, that such should not be tolerated.
And that's quite unusual kasi to begin with, this is supposed to be a time of budget reform and transparency. Tapos for the first time, you're having cabinet secretaries making renewed pushes in the Bicam, not in the committee level.
Executive insertion. Sabi ng mga executive insertion yan.
Kung kailan nagreforma dapat dun sa sa budgeting process, saka nagkaroon ng ganyang pagkakaiba at kakaibang pagsisingit.
Yeah. Actually, even the appearance of Secretary Vince Dizon in one of the Bicam sessions, it's been also a surprise for me as a budget monitor. So why is he there in the first place? So I had to ask really the colleagues, is this okay? Is this allowed that secretaries could attend as resource persons? But the bigger implication to that is we fear that they might be, by those interventions, they might be putting in unnecessary disruption the process, because it's a new data, and if we are dealing with a very limited time such as the Bicam, I don't think that they could get into the right amount of energy and rigor to really consider it objectively without given the time and the appropriate and accurate information to evaluate it against the new proposal. So it just complicates the process, and we really wanted it not to persist in the next Bicam.
Tsaka talagang replacement of projects in of all places, the Bicam. Magpapalit ka ng mga proyekto.
Yeah.
Kaya nga. Sige, first time lang naman to, no? At saka tayo, nanonood lang tayo, beggars can't be choosers. Pero by way of transparency, ano pa ang hope nyo lang, total, ano to ngayon, Merry Christmas ngayon Ano yung mga wish nyo para maging more transparent kung itutuloy pa rin to next Bicam? Ano yung mga gusto nyo makita?
Sobrang mahirap pong umpisahan, pero dahil sobrang komplikado, no, yung unang-una po talaga, wala ito yung binigay na budget, ito yung inapruban. So may mga babantayan pa actually, post-bicam. So I believe na pag-usapan po yata ito. Pero assuming that the budget is passed as of last night's version, we could start really by looking into the details of the contracts. The procurement is really something that we should all be putting our heads together and thinking of a way to make it really transparent, no, na walang makalusot. How do vested interests get in the way of politicians bagging big ticket projects under our eyes? How is one owner able to compete against his or her own companies for a big ticket infrastructure project. So those things might be difficult for us to monitor if there's not real access to information. And this is where the advocacy of freedom of information comes in the work that we do in the Right to Coalition and FOI Youth Initiative. No, so really bantayan yung procurement. Tapos dahil on record so naka-livestream sila nung Bicam. Kasi sinilin talaga, we will be able to get spliced recordings of whatever they said, that there would be safeguards, there would be ways for the citizens to see what is going on with the budget. We'll hold them accountable to it. No, so this is something that not only a certain organization can do on its own, and we hope that the public would really learn the lessons, the painful lessons that we learned the last year.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Patrick Acupan of the People's Budget Coalition. Thank you for joining us.